coming today. We should request Sir Edson to give us an opening prayer.
Let's pray. Mighty God, we are here before you as you are going to learn and teach us, Heavenly Father, about your word. We commit our preacher, Doctor, to your hands, that as he speaks, we'll be able to understand and to comprehend what you are speaking through him. Pray for this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen. We are starting a new series from the book of Revelation. Revelation is one of the most feared books. People fear the book of Revelation, but that fear shows you that ignorance is to be feared. Huh? The reason we are you pay school fees for your children is because you fear ignorance. You don't know what will become of your children when they grow up ignorant. Yeah, so that's the reason the book of Revelation is feared, because it's not like other books that people can easily impose. Huh? Can easily impose whatever they think they want to say. Yeah, it is, and in the book of Revelation, there is not. I've not seen anyone do tabloid theology. You know tabloid theology? Tabloid theology means you normally see on WhatsApp. Someone sends a message. Today it's the first day of the month. The blessings of the Lord are going to. Messages like that, message talking about blessings, because today is this and this. If you send this message to 20 people, God will do what? Will open up a door for you today. That one is called tabloid theology. People are just imposing what they wish without necessarily knowing what exactly God is saying through the revelation. So it is not easy to do tabloid theology in the book of Revelation. Yeah, but although it is feared, there are also people who say it has a lot of secrets. When you find someone saying the book of Revelation is full of secrets, just know that person is helpless. The book of Revelation has no secrets. It has no secrets. What makes it a different book is that it is too Hebreistic. It's the most Hebreistic book in the New Testament. It is full of Hebrew, the Hebrew culture, the Hebrew tradition is there abundantly. So since the Hebrew culture is so foreign to even the Hebrews themselves, the biblical Hebrew culture, in the Hebrews themselves in Israel, that original culture, most of the things they don't know them. So that's what makes the book of Revelation so strange, but it has no secrets. It has no secrets. So when it therefore calls for a study, studies. Therefore, it's not about prayer and fasting so that God reveals to you what a verse says. It's not. It's about research work, and then methods to put the real methods we have been teaching of studying the Bible into practice. Yeah, if you not grasp those methods, you cannot do anything in the book of Revelation. Yeah, because it is, first of all, it's full of that Old Testament Bible. Most of the book is Old Testament. To unlock the book of Revelation, you go backwards, not forward. So when you approach it with the mindset of forward, you are looking for what will come in 2030 and 2040, and you are completely off. But to discover it, as we're going to see, you go backwards. You begin in the Old Testament. After that, then you go to the social setting at that time. An interpretation that is not relevant to the people who existed in the first century is false. Any interpretation that is not relevant to those people who existed in the first century at that time is not right.
Where first century means?
First century is
BC,
AD. First century, we are in the 21st century. 22nd. 21st, yes, we are in the 21st century. So, Jesus existed in the first century. And these books, all of them were written in the first century. So, the book of Revelation was also written in the first century. So, any interpretation that is given must have relevance to the people who existed on the ground. Yes, so you cannot talk about a mobile phone in the book of Revelation.
Corona.
You cannot talk about microchip in the book of Revelation because that interpretation is irrelevant to the people who existed in the first century. And so apart from the Old Testament background, it's got the social setting, the setting in life at that time that existed. Then after that, we go to the language that was used. So it's an apocalypse. Biblical apocalypse means the type of writing that was unique to only Jews. Jews had a type of writing that they only put into play when the following are true. Number one, they are into a crisis. Whenever they will be in a crisis, either they are under a power, they have been hijacked, they have been taken elsewhere, or some people are persecuting them. They change the way they write. So they wrote in apocalyptic form of writing, apocalyptic literature. So when you see the books like Daniel, when you see a book that has got those bits, what horns and what it means that the time of that writing of the book, there was a crisis. So the book of Daniel means that there was a crisis to the Jews. So they couldn't communicate in pros and cons, literally, so that everyone understands their message. No, they wrote in a way that the information is only understood by them. It is hidden. So not everything, the horn, the eye, the what has got meaning. But the purpose of writing is to confuse, to make you keep guessing, you who is not a Jew. To keep you guessing. And no matter that's what is happening. Because whoever comes out to teach us about the book of Revelation, after some time, we realize that it was what? Guesswork. You see? It was guesswork. So they achieved what they wanted. They want all people who are not part of them to keep guessing about the what? The message. But for them, they know. You understand? So it's the purpose. When you see people jumping around in the book of Revelation, this one says this is the 7 what and what. That's the real purpose the book was written. That whoever is not Jew, any Gentile who learns the book. Because at that time, when they were in the first century, when they were being persecuted, among the people who were persecuting them, yes, they were Jews persecuting the Christians. Because Revelation is the Christian apocalypse. Daniel is a Jewish apocalypse. Now there is a difference. Both of them are written by what? By Jews. But the Jew who wrote Revelation is a Christian. The Jew who wrote Daniel is not a what? A Christian. You understand? So the Jew who wrote Revelation is Christianizing Jewish concepts. He's winning. He's making God a victor through Jesus. But the Jew who wrote Daniel is showing the victory you receive in keeping the law in the Jewish tradition, in the Jewish covenant. Therefore, there's no way you can say you are seeing Christianity in the book of Daniel.
Daniel didn't say that.
There is no way, because the book was written not by a Christian. It was written by what? By a Jew. But the book of Revelation was written by what? A Christian. Yeah, so now, since the book is a Christian apocalypse, that means it was written by a Jew to the people who really lived in the first century. So he's telling you the 7 churches. He's telling you the audience. And we've been talking about those things. That when you're reading a book, first find out the author who wrote it, when he wrote it, and the audience. So John is giving him a view. He was a church pastor, he was a district pastor, if we would say. And he's telling you, I had 7 churches. There was Pergamon, there was Ephesus. You see, literal churches that existed at that time. Professor Mugara told us he went to Greek because he was the chairman of the Bible Translation Committee here in Uganda. So, and he was a member of the International Translation Committee. So he told us they used to give them tours. So he went in one of those churches, and in fact he preached in one of those churches. You see? So these are literal churches that existed. It was a geography, a district. Now, when he wrote, it is not easy to penetrate the book of Revelation until you are organized. You must be very organized to begin penetrating the what? The book. And one way to be organized is to approach it using backgrounds. Which background are you going to use? Background, are you going to which background? Are you going to using the covenant background? Are you going to use the Lamb background? That means so that you're able to go to the Old Testament and study that area and then come back. So now, but one of the obvious way of approaching it, a motif that is easily seen, is the motif of a throne. The throne in the book of Revelation, and it forms our problem statement in this series. What is the throne doing in the book of Revelation? Why? Because in the whole New Testament, the word throne, in Greek is thronos. It's just literal. I think the English people need to have a word. They just transliterate thronos. In the Old New Testament, the word throne appears 62 times. The statistics. 62 times in the whole New Testament from Matthew to Revelation. But in the book of Revelation alone, it is 47 times. Are you seeing? In the book of Revelation, remember that the author of the book of Revelation wrote other books in the New Testament. But he concentrates the 47 times in the book of what? Of Revelation. Now, in the book of Revelation now alone, 36 times they are applying this word on God. God himself alone. 36 times. Now, John, the disciple, he was one of the, he's called the Revelator, but one of the disciples. The one Jesus loved, they say he was a friend of Jesus. The one Jesus loved most kind of such things. So he was the youngest. He was the youngest of all. So he's the one who wrote the book of Revelation. So it is attributed to him. Evidence shows that he is the one who wrote. The evidence when you look at the other books he wrote and this one, it shows that this is John still. Now, the status of the 62 times, 36, it is written in the context of God, the attributing of God alone. Then, 2 times, it appears 2 times, the word throne appears 2 times, attributed to the Lamb and God. The Lamb and God. After that, we have 2 times, it is attributed to the Lamb individually, only the Lamb. After that, we have 3 times, it is attributed to the 24 elders. Someone asked the question about the 24 elders. Yes, we're going to deal with those ones in this series. And this is how we're going to be flowing, analyzing each attribution. We shall begin with God, 36 times, then we go to the Lamb, then the 24 elders, then 1 to the saints, once, then once to Satan. Once to Saturn. Then once to the beast.
Oh.
Which have to deal with the beast. Yeah. So such a broad kind of outline, we cannot ignore it. It justifies the fact that it's one of the ways to approach the book of Revelation. If you have to begin to understand it, use the throne motif. Why is it called a motif? Because it's a motif is not just an idea but the frequency of the idea in a book. The frequency, the criteria to qualify to be called a motif. It is frequent. Not that there is a certain number of times it's supposed to be, but it is everywhere. Everywhere. Because 47 times in one book, and yet the other time this one is a motif, and it is also used in context where you don't expect it. The number of times it is implied, those ones that we have not mentioned, these ones are the direct ones, where you go. So that means if someone studies the concept of the throne, it will be easy for that person to study the book of Revelation. At least you'll be coming across the throne and say, oh, okay. So that's the purpose of this session. And so now, before we go into the specific thrones attributed to different people, as we say, now we have to deal with the Old Testament. Because the book of Revelation is Old Testament. If you don't deal with the Old Testament, you're going to be just swimming. Now there are 4 concepts in the Old Testament that are related to the throne that we have to first deal with. 4 concepts in the Old Testament. Now, the first concept is the ark. The ark. In the Old Testament, they have an ark. And that ark existed in the what? The Jewish camp. And that ark, they believed, is a pledge to the presence of God. It was a pledge to the presence of God. And because of this pledge, when you read the Old Testament, you see that the ark has associated blessings. For example, when they were crossing the Jordan, when they were crossing the Jordan, those who carried the ark went first. Not so. And when the moment they stepped in the what? In the water, it stopped flowing. And then we come across that word they normally like using on dry ground. We walked on dry ground. So it has association. Secondly, when they were conquering Jericho, we are told that the ark was in front. They went around Jericho and they conquered the city. So it had associated blessings. Number 2, it had the punishments in case you mess up with it. In case you mess up with it, you could be punished. And one of the texts they give us, they tell us that one day they went to the battle without it. Thousands died. They went back and said, where is the ark of the Lord? It is with Eli. That's how Eli comes in. Now, Eli was an old man at that time. So we're told they went and picked the ark and went to battle. But now when the Philistines learned that they heard the shout in the Israel camp, the Philistines asked, what is happening there? Then they were told, the ark of the Lord has been brought. So the Philistines were worried that now we are finished. But somehow, somewhere, a motivator came out in the Philistine camp. He told them, you know what? Let us be men. If we lose, we're going to be slaves to Jews. And from that on, the story turned. When they came, even with the ark, they were defeated. So therefore, it was not obvious that the presence of the ark meant what? It meant victory. After that, they tell us that now, after that loss in the battle, when the news, there's always, I don't know why, but even in the movies, I normally see it, when the battle is intense, there's always one person who escapes. To go and give the what? The news. Yes. So I think you can see Jewish literature. There's always one who does what? Who escapes to go and give the news about the what they have. So he escaped and went and told Eli. Now immediately Eli saw him, said, "Tell me about the ark." You know, he first told him, you know what? All of Israel has been what? Killed. Eli kept quiet. Your sons, Eli had 2 sons, they had gone to the battle, are dead. Eli kept quiet. Tell me about the ark. The ark of the Lord has been taken. The old Moses fall on his knee, just like this, broke his neck. Immediately died. So now after that, one of Eli's sons had a wife who was pregnant. The news reached the wife. We are told it was not period of what? Of labor. Immediately she went into what? Into labor. And gave birth to a son. Giving birth to a son. She couldn't withstand the labor pains. She died naming the son. You understand what I'm saying? Died naming the son. Now the ark, whenever they would see the ark, because it was a pledge of God's presence, they would call it kabod. The presence of the Lord is resting. Kabod. So now when the woman was dying, said, "Ikabod," the presence is gone. The glory has what? Has departed.
So to this woman, the ark was more important than the husband.
Yes. So we understand that in the Jewish mind, so the point is that all those contributions show that in the Jewish mind there was a lot attached to these things. Right? You understand? The things we see as stories, for them there was too much. So until you go into their mind, you will never understand what they write. So now, that ark, time reached, was moved into the temple. Now we come to the second concept that we have to know as we approach the throne. The temple. The temple. The name they used for temple is the name I hear in most languages. It also still a transliteration. Luganda, Lukonjo, Lunyankole, Hekalu. Yekalu. Yekalu. Lugis, what do you use? I mean,
It's the same thing.
it's the same thing. Languages have failed to get a similar word. I mean, a word to use for the temple. So they use Hekalu. Now, the word Hekalu meant the God's divine presence coming into human space. In the Jewish mind, divine presence invading human space meant that's the Hekalu, the temple. Now I want you to see that we are getting 2 things: the pledge of God's presence and divine presence invading human space, both combining. Because the ark was later put into what? The temple. Are you understanding? The other one is divine presence has invaded human territory, and this one is a pledge of God's presence. Now they put the what? The ark in the most holy place. No wonder it's called the most holy place, because these 2 are combined. Put it there. So whenever they look at the temple, they are seeing a king in his palace. So to the Jewish mind, a temple is God's palace. Now, is it easy? Tell me, those of us who have kingdoms, is it easy to approach a king? Is it easy to approach a king? Can you? Sometime back I saw when people want to see. They were asking they want the prime minister. Where is the man? Is he dying? Where is he? It's not easy to even see the king. So it's worse. It is harder to approach him. Now, because of that concept, they developed a liturgy in the temple. It's for you to approach the king, you had to sacrifice. You understand? For you to approach the king, you had to sacrifice. That's how hard it was to approach God.
It's not that we say it's sacrifice.
We shall reach there. We're coming. So now, these two concepts are busy. That approaching the king necessitated a sacrifice. Because God was there in the cherubims. Now, what was there? Because the ark had the lead. I explained this last time. And this lead was, they referred to it as a mercy seat. Mercy seat. Now it is in the temple. So it becomes the most holy place. Concept number 3 in the Old Testament. You have to know to understand the throne.
First was the ark.
The ark.
The second was
The temple. Number 3, Zion. Zion. The whole Old Testament is full of Zion. When it comes to Psalms, I normally see people singing Zion, Zion, Zion. Now I wonder whether they know what they are singing. It's Zion.
We are marching to Zion.
We are marching to Zion. What is Zion? Zion was a hill. Was a hill. It's not the tallest hill in the Middle East. No. The tallest peak, the highest peak in the Middle East is called Mount Ammon. But Zion was not. Now Zion was a city, was a hill that belonged to the people called the Jebusites. The Jebusites, these were just poor people. You know, those days, if you had a small land, you constructed a what? A wall around it. You form a city. Maybe if you are a tribe, what and what. These poor people had a hill somewhere, and they constructed a wall around it. Now, when the Jews conquered Joshua and his colleague, all those schemes, at the end of it all, they got a kingdom. Now that their kingdom was here, and the Jebusites were there left. It's like a hill somewhere. So one day David, in his kingdom, one of his generals told him, would you like to take that Kahil also? You see, in the movies, they have always showed us that in those days, invading was the order of the day. King would always want to do what? To expand. So one of his generals asked him, would you like to take that Kahil also? Yes, he said, yes, we can give it to you. So they went there overnight at night. Now the hill had what? Had a spring. They had one spring of water. Bam, that's what? So when they constructed, there was a gap, there was a hole, because it was a channel. And when you go to the internet, they will easily try to show something that they try to represent that channel, or that shows that there was a channel that took water to the what? To the inside the city, the hill. So now David's army used the channel. At night, they went in. When they ate in, they slaughtered the Jebusites. Early in the morning, it was David's hill. So that is how we get to Jerusalem. So now, if you may ask, if heaven has a city, is it really fit to be called Jerusalem?
Wait a minute. Mount Zion is the same as Jerusalem, eh?
Yes, the city, that place is called Jerusalem. Jerusalem has a mountain in between. That mountain is called what? Zion. Do you understand?
So Jerusalem is in a valley.
No.
No, it's like Kampala. That Kampala has
Good. So that mountain is what they call Zion. So the city is called what? Jerusalem. But it belongs to the Jebusites. So now after conquering, after destroying the Jebusites, David took over the what? The hill. Now time came when they were deciding, when the engineers, when they were deciding where to construct the temple, they decided that it should be constructed where? On Mount Zion. Now, why on the mount? Why on a mountain? In the ancient Near East, a mountain was considered to be the throne of the ruler of the universe. And since even Abraham's time, the God who lived on the throne was called El Shaddai. So now, the word El Shaddai, the name El Shaddai, has been translated in our English languages as Almighty. Almighty. So the original word in the ancient Near East understanding, the meaning of the word Almighty, it is not necessarily power as people want to think. No, it has to do with rulership. Ruling all the universe. Yeah. So when we're talking about El Shaddai, we're talking about a ruler of the mountain. So now, the ruler of the universe would reside on the mountain. So now, when the Jewish God left Sinai, he did go to the tallest mountain in the Middle East, Mount Hermon. He went to Zion. So from that day onwards, Zion theologically became the what? The tallest peak.
Theologically.
You understand? Yes. From the day the temple settled on what? On the mountain. The temple, remember, had what? The ark. Now the mountain. You understand those concepts? So now everything is there. No wonder Zion became Zion. Now the book of Revelation has a lot of Zion.
So Zion almost stopped being a historical fact. It almost becomes a myth now.
It was a holy place. So approaching, time came, approaching Jerusalem, you're approaching God. Going to Jerusalem, you're going to God. Or watch together. So now when you read the book of Acts, when you see those people who moved from where, they are coming to Jerusalem. That was the mindset they had. Jerusalem. You understand? Every good thing was there. That was the pledge of God's presence was there. The combination of humanity and divinity was there. The mountain where the throne of the ruler of the universe was there. The what?
Sure. S-H-E-O-L.
And Shiloh, that was where the ark was. That was where the ark was. That was where the ark was. Philistines later something like that. So what we are saying is that these three concepts meet. Now, after these three concepts are met to create a tradition that is so hard to break, another concept comes in. The fourth concept that you have to be well versed with in the Old Testament for you to break the book of Revelation. And that concept is heaven. Now we are going to read the verse for that one. This we have got the other background. Isaiah 66, verse 1. Now you get to see how now things are shifting. Isaiah 66, verse 1.
Isaiah 66.
Yeah, Bible in Yamuyola Yoka.
66?
Verse 1.
NIV. This is what the Lord says. Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you will build for me? Where will my resting place be?
Heaven is my what? My throne. And then the earth is my what? It's my footstool. Now the footstool is talking about they are not anywhere, they are on the ark. Wali what kweyayimirira akawali katika yo muyuda bw'atunula alaba God is are you understanding? The feet are there, the man is sitting where? Up. So now we begin to see a connection between earth and what? And heaven. You understand it? You begin to see the connection between earth and what? And heaven. Somewhere in the New Testament, Jesus refers to that text when he said, do not preach, do not vote, or do not swear to heaven. Because it is God is what? Throne. Nowhere to earth. Because it is God is what? Footstool. Nagama mchewa liendala ekyokulayira.
Yes, yes.
At that time, he's breaking a very strong tradition in what? In Judaism, when every time people are vowing. You understand? So he's breaking it by using a very strong concept. We say, leave the thing. So now we are seeing divinity conquering, not only conquering heaven, but we're seeing heaven is approaching earth. Yeah? There is something they are communicating something. But now the throne of God is what? Is in heaven. From earth. And now remember, when you're reading Isaiah, the Deutero Isaiah, chapter 66 is in part of Deutero Isaiah. Deutero Isaiah starts with chapter 40. From chapter 1 to chapter 39. That's first. You will call it first Isaiah. Eh? And then chapter 42 onwards is second Isaiah, Deutero Isaiah. Why? Because the scrolls were expensive at that time. They were exported from what? From Egypt. The papyri that made scrolls was from Africa. Eh? Now they exported them to the Middle East. Now it was expensive to own a scroll. So Bibles, those that call scroll, were only in the temple. And time came only in the synagogue. The whole community would have its Bible in the synagogue. So now, time when because of that Buddha, their scrolls, you understand? They would write on one scroll more than 2 books. So when it was discovered, the book of Isaiah, they found out that one scroll had 2 books. Now, when they were combining, when they were translating, they decided that all these books be in one book. So now that's why theologians say this is Deutero Isaiah. They are referring to the other second book that was found on the same what? On the same scroll. Yes, but the argument is that it is probable that the first part was written by Isaiah himself, the second part was written by his disciples. So now, but the concept from chapter 40 onwards is different. It shows a different theology, a different understanding of God. Now you are seeing that here they are thinking about God being in Zion. Now this one says no. 101c, it is his what? Footstool. For him he sits where? In heaven. That's a controversial thing. For years and years people have been knowing his what? In Mount Zion. Now after that, since we have reached heaven, now we go to Isaiah, the madman. I mean Ezekiel, the madman. Ezekiel was mad. He had a psychological issue. Yeah. Psychiatric, psychiatric. Now, despite his psychiatry, he had a revelation of God. We're also going to read that one. Because remember, our topic today is a door standing what? Open. So now, we have left most of the ideas in order, so now we're beginning now to run our text. So now, Ezekiel sees a vision. Ezekiel chapter 1. Verse 1. The very first verse.
Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 1. NIV translation. In my 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the river Kiba, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God.
First stop. Simba wakati. He's telling you the location where he was. He said he was among the exiles. He gives you the year. When Joachim was taken, Joachim was one of it was one of the worst things in Israel history. That when they were beaten, they were not only beaten, their king was taken as a slave to exile. So he's using that. He's saying that year when our king is in the 50th year, what?
The 30th year.
Yeah, 30th year.
The 4th month.
After
On the 50th
on the 50th day. After our king was taken, everyone will remember that. Okay. When Joachim was taken, I was in the what? In exile. He was at River Cape. Now he says, heaven was open. Now I want to we're going to take some time on that one, because that's how we begin. The heavens were open. Now he didn't say that I opened heaven. And you know what he did say? Open heaven, open itself. So he's when you translate in Greek, when you want to analyze it easily, you translate it in Greek. Now it is giving the tense is the aorist tense. Aorist means at one time an action starts, and at another time an action ends. So when he said that the heavens were open, the door was open, and then at one time it was what? Closed. What happened? Two, it was passive. Someone opened it. He was on the receiving end of the opening. Yeah, you understand? So he's trying to communicate that revelation is completely God is making. You don't come up, me, I'm a prophet. I'm superior than the other. I can see things different. Just come to me and I show you what God. Revelation is exclusive to God alone. It is God who decides to reveal Himself. You don't fast for God to reveal Himself. He decides to open. It is God alone. Sigwe. So therefore, your marriage is good. It's true you are married, but your marriage cannot open heaven. Because of your status as a married man, of your status as a Sabbath keeper, of your status as a man who is very religious, that cannot open heaven. The prophets, as far as this way is concerned, were very genuine. That they had nothing to do with the revelation from heaven. They were on the receiving end. So when we see prophets now coming up with claims that they can open heaven, it's not true. Heaven is opening, it's passive. Only God does it. We are on the receiving end. So now he's telling you that heaven was opened, and it's God, a power opened it. Now when we go to verse 26, you go to verse 26
Of Ezekiel.
Ezekiel 1. And yes, he begins to describe.
Verse 26. Above the vault, over their heads, was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli. And high above, on the throne, was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him, like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So was the radiance around him.
Thank you. So now we begin to describe. Remember, we moved from the ark, we went from the ark to the temple, from the temple to the mountain, from the mountain to heaven. Now the door is open. And when the door is open, we see a throne. You understand it? How the revelation was progressive. We normally say revelation is progressive. For you to understand the current, you must understand the past very well. So now Ezekiel was one of those guys who was very brilliant. In fact, most people think, my Bible students think, that Ezekiel had Paul's theology. Paul's theology, Paul of the New Testament. Ezekiel had it. When you study the book, the man was at another level of understanding God. He was very different. He made statements only that he had that psychological issue. They wouldn't kill him. You understand? You cannot kill a mad people. They keep killing them. Mad people, they don't. So because of that psychiatric issue of his, they wouldn't kill him. Otherwise, people like Jeremiah who attempted to reach Ezekiel, they fall into big trouble with Israel. They were always in prison, they were always thrown to in dens, beating every time. So Ezekiel was advanced as far as understanding God. Now he's saying, when he's describing, there's nothing he's describing, first of all. He's saying the person on the throne, the person who was seated there, looked like a man. Remember, the book of Genesis tells us we are made in the image of what? Of God. Ezekiel is telling us that the person who is sitting there looked like in the likeness of a what? Of a man. After that, he said he saw that what looks like a rainbow around. So now the word the rainbow he uses is the same word used in Genesis when God made that the covenant. That from now on, whether it was a covenant, whether it was the Uganda version says what? Something like that.
And the
yes. So whatever it was, Ezekiel says that same thing appeared on the throne, around the throne. So he's trying to say that this throne was a throne of grace. He's saying the throne was a throne of grace. The one he saw in simple terms. By surrounding it with what? With a rainbow. Now, after saying that, Ezekiel runs to chapter 10, verse 18. As he runs, and after describing that, he sees, first of all, as you're going to read, what he saw from verse 1 to verse 26 was a moving chariot. Let me first explain. A moving chariot. That the ark in the temple, remember the ark in the temple? It had grown wheels. It was like a 4-wheel drive. So he explained this. He had wheels in front, he had wheels at the back. Where you get it? It had grown wheels. Now, apart from that, it was moving. Now, in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, there is a throne. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel also saw a throne. But the throne in the book of Daniel, although it had wheels, it doesn't move. That's Jewish theology, friends. Jewish theology, the theology in the Old Testament, is theology with wheels, but it doesn't move. The theology of the New Testament is wheels that do what? Move. Ezekiel is presenting another level of God that he has wheels and he also moves. So now he's showing us where he's going. 10:18.
Then the glory of the Lord departed from over the threshold of the temple and stopped above the cherubim. While I watched, the cherubim spread their wings and rose from the ground, and as they went, the wheels went with them. They stopped at the entrance of the east gate of the Lord's house, and the glory of the God of Israel was above them.
Above them, left. You are done. Thank you. What Ezekiel is saying, that the glory that has seated in the temple for years and years and years, the praise of his presence, the incarnation of divinity with humanity, left the temple. And where did it go? It went to the east, Babylon. Where the east, where is it going? To the land of the unclean.
The uncircumcised.
They were contemporaries. Contemporaries mean it doesn't mean necessarily to but in the same Ngaura in the days of Museveni. There was special Zawandera Kazibwe. There is also Nabanja. You understand it? They were contemporaries. It was the same. They are contemporaries. It's exactly all of them were in action at the same time. But in Mulembe Kwegumu, Obwa Museveni. Now, when he's telling exile, it means that Daniel also was what? Was there. Because that same exile, that's when the Daniels were what? Were taken. So, we're trying to show that revelation did not necessarily come from one angle. It came from what? From different angles. Now, the main point, what is saying that revelation shifted, or the presence of God went to an unclean land. It left the palace, the hekaru, where it sat. So what are they communicating? The prophets are communicating that from the angle of heaven, from the perception of heaven, differences that exist among people have been relativized. From the angle of heaven. Tewakyaliwo kilini na anikilini. God has moved from the so-called clean. He has gone to the what? To the unclean. He has gone to be active. He's not going there to sleep. Because he's on a moving wheel. You understand? So no issue therefore, Pastor Isaiah normally using the word parking. Temu parking of theology, temu parking of what? So Israel had packed on that concept of the throne being there. But prophets, slowly by slowly, and Ezekiel being the last who broke the code, saying God left the temple. Now, Israel will mourn for years and years. That the glory has left what? The temple, where Zion is no longer the Zion you do what?
So the ark-ship we studied first, and the temple-ship of Zion is no more.
Is no more. Now, listen. Or they come up with a new theology. Jeremiah tells you that he's seeing a city without an ark. Yeah? Are you understanding? He's seeing a city without an ark in it. The first chapters of Jeremiah. He's seeing a city without an ark. Now, Ezekiel, coming up here at bold, the last verse of the book of Ezekiel. You read the last verse of the book of Ezekiel. Yeah?
So for us going to pray in Jerusalem is just a waste of time.
You read the last verse.
The last verse of
the book of Ezekiel.
Chapter 48, verse 35. The distance all around will be 18,000 cubits. And the name of the city from that time on will be The Lord is there.
That city that has no ark. They want to show that the time will come, a new understanding of God will come, and God, this city called Jerusalem, although it will have no ark, but the name will be called God is what? There. Are you understanding?
But without an ark.
Without an ark. Yes, that is 28, 29. Yeah, but the first chapters show about the city, his vision about the city, that at one day it will be empty without an ark. So now, Ezekiel is saying that although there will be an ark, now, conclusion in the Old Testament, as we read, number one, God has no limits. Katonda tebamukugira. Notekatekawo wataitawo wanaitawo This one stuck on God about this one works with them. He broke all those boundaries. That he had been held in prison for years and years. So Ezekiel is showing a prison break. You understand? God finally broke the prison and he left and he went to Babylon. Second, in the perspective of heaven, now that the throne is in heaven, remember when the throne was on earth, there was a liturgy. Do you understand? Not everyone would approach the throne. Now that the throne is in heaven, it is the throne of grace. Now, John, the Revelator, Revelation chapter 4. Our verse. Revelation chapter 4, verse
1. Revelation 4:1 NIV translation. After this, I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had
out. That's enough. We're dealing with that first.
Okay.
After this, I looked, and there before me was a door standing open. Some versions standing open. No, it is standing open. Why? Because the tense used, remember, the tense used in Ezekiel was always where an occasion starts and what? It ends. When a door is open, it has to be what? Closed. Here, he uses the perfect tense. We've talked about the perfect tense here many times, and we have been saying that in John, when he says, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, "It is finished." It was in the perfect tense that an action has been done. Not only done, it has been complete. It has been completed, and the results of that accomplishment will be enjoyed from that day onwards till forever. Do you understand? So it's the same verb. They say he saw a door standing open. It is the perfect tense. A door was open. It's God himself who opened it, not your words, not your prayer, not your fasting, not your relationship, what you think the relationship you have with what? With God. In other words, everyone is welcome. Forever welcome. And this very John, in other version, he tells us, "I am the door." You remember John? He tells them, anyone, he told them Pharisees, "I tell you Pharisees, anyone who enters not through the door is a thief." After that he said to them, "I am the door." So, now he's illustrating, he said, a door is standing open. When it comes to heaven and salvation, now the door in their mindset was an opportunity for salvation. The opportunity of salvation has been open. Everyone is welcome, and it stands open. But now, please tell the prostitutes the door is open. Tell the holy people, a door is what? Is open. It has been opened for both. Even a holy person cannot open it, but it has been opened. Everyone is open, is welcome. So from the heavenly perspective of seeing things, I don't know how you see things, which glasses you use to see things, but John is opening up the book of Revelation with the heavenly perspective of what? Seeing things. So as we go through the book of Revelation, probably people who are seeing the book of Revelation in the earthly perspective of seeing things, they will see phones, they will see microchips, they will see pops. But in the heavenly perspective of things, we're seeing a door that is what? Is open. The book of Revelation is a salvation book. It is a gospel. God is allowing everyone. If only the bad people were allowed into heaven, the gospel does not need to be remembered. You see? It doesn't need. But now we are seeing a door open and everyone is open. From the perspective of heaven, a door has been opened and everyone is welcome. Thank you.